Well, hello there, how is everyone? I hope you're all well on this fabulous Monday. That's correct, it's Monday and you're looking amazing. Amazing Monday. No, you're amazing on Monday. Monday is marvellous Monday. That's it. Terrific Tuesday, wonderful Wednesday. We'll sort Friday out, Thursday out later. So we get straight into the meat and potatoes. As there's a couple of things I want to address today. Obviously, as the week progresses, there will likely be other stuff that comes out, and we're also going to be touching on a couple of other cases as well. But for now, we are sticking to the Idaho 4 case, because again, there's just a couple of things I want to address. First of all is CrimeCon, and the fact that Ethan Chapins' mum attended. And look, this is going to be a room splitter. This is a hard one because I appreciate that these families have gone through the mill. Absolutely horrendous situation. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. But there are certain things that bug me about these sort of situations. Whether it's a culture difference between the UK and US, but it always makes me struggle to understand how when these adults lose a child, how it can very quickly be turned into a money-making situation, like a money-making scheme. You know, we've got numerous GoFundMes, which I get it, you know what I mean? If families are not wealthy, for instance, and they'll try and set up a GoFundMe to help with funeral costs, funeral arrangements, and so on and so forth. And I get all that. I get that when friends get together and know that the families are going to struggle, so let's get some fundraising done. Kind of get it. It still seems there should be more government help, I think, with things like that. Do you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure that there is government help. I don't think that there'd ever be a situation where if you lost a loved one, especially if it was a young child or a young adult, that there wouldn't be a burial if you couldn't afford it. Anyway, I digress. So the Ethan Chapins family, these are one of the families of obviously the Idaho 4 victims. Ethan was the only male who died in this incident, and his parents have kind of stood away from the rest of them. They've basically turned around and said, look, we don't really want anything to do with it. We're not going to be attending court. We're not going to get involved. We don't see how it will change anything. Whatever we do, whatever we say, the outcome is still the same. So we want to move on. And that mentality seems to be very heavily tied in with the university and the Greek system mentality. Let's not forget that it was the university who very quickly wanted to pull the house down, get it gone, move on, nothing to see here. And with the Chapin family, that is the vibe I get. And I apologise if you feel that I'm wrong for bringing it up, but I'm bringing it up because that's just the way it feels. You know, Ethan's mum attends CrimeCon, and I get it. Maybe it's something that she's attended every single year, and and she was an avid lover of crime and true crime, because many people are. It's one of the fastest growing sort of areas that there is at the moment in terms of social media content and the interest online. It's grown over the last even 2-3 years. There's been exponential growth. I think it was said that the turnout at this year's CrimeCon was possibly the biggest that they'd ever seen. But anyway, like I say, I digress. Yet again, one of those people who turned up was Ethan Chapin's mum, and she had a stand. She was raising funds for obviously the Boy Who Wore Blue, is it, the book, which is one of their avenues of raising money alongside these little glass trinket things. $165 plus $12.50 for postage. I think it's the most, or one of the most expensive glasses that this company does for them. And like I say, there's a lot of money revenue streams here. What with the GoFundMe ones and these little glass trinkets, the book deal, and and obviously the EthanSmile.org the charitable thing that you pay Venmo, and those funds will definitely be transferred over to, the foundation, but pay, Stacey Chapin via Venmo, and she'll make sure that the money, don't set up an account that is specific to that organisation so people can pay the organisation directly. Venmo Stacey and she'll do it. I'm sure it's all above board, 100%, because I don't think you'd get away with doing anything underhanded, untoward. I don't think you would. But anyway, so the GoFundMe for the Chapin family was set up by the Greek Row, if you like. It was all Greek Row stuff, and like I say, their mentality is very much in line, synchronicity between the two, and that to me sits a little bit uncomfortable at times. I'm sure there's a reason for it, but it's almost like they have to be that way. They sent their children, the remaining children of the siblings, straight back into the lion's den very quickly. You're all right. And again, it's just it very bizarre. Very bizarre. I know people grieve differently, but I kind of try and put myself in the boots of someone who has been in that situation, and would I, if I'd have been in exactly the same situation, would I have sent my children straight back into it like that? And, honorary members of the Greek fraternities and sororities, but, so I'm sure the payment for that, moving on swiftly was welcomed. But anyway, like I say, I'm sure that was going to be a bit of a room splitter. Some of you are going to feel the same, some of you are going to feel different. It's just, like I say, for me, guys, I do apologise. It's just something that just sits a little bit uncomfortable with me. And, I do wish them all the best in the future. I truly do. And what a horrendous thing to have to go through. But I suppose it's just me trying to understand how certain people do certain things in certain situations, and I try and make it pair with what I would be like, and it just don't quite gel. There isn't synchronicity there, so I question it. Maybe some people down below will shoot me down with furious anger. There we go again. Second thing on the table for today, second thing on the agenda is, why would this person have gone into this house? We spoke yesterday, didn't we? Was it yesterday or the day before? We was talking about one targeted individual. And, who was the target? Was Maddie the target, and the rest were kind of collateral damage? And when you go down that avenue, it kind of paints a picture of what potentially happened. The person enters the house, they know exactly where to go. They go up there, they get to Maddie. They're startled because Kaylee is there. There's an altercation that rouses the people down below. Not all of them, just some of them. Rouses those. They then come out. There's another altercation, and before you know it, you've got 4 victims. And that kind of makes the most sense. But does it make the most sense? Because I think to myself, if someone would have come into the house and they had one target, one person, one target only, I would think, how did that one target turn into 4? Because that's a big jump, isn't it? There's a big jump from one person going into the house because you're fixated on doing this heinous act, but you've got one target, and before you know it, that has spiraled completely out of control, and all of a sudden you've got 4. And I wonder how someone would cope with that from a from a psychological perspective. And whether, when you look at Brian Kohberger, for instance, if you bear in mind that Brian Kohberger's never been in trouble with the police, he's never done this before, never been caught for doing this before, but then, so you're supposed to believe that this was the first crime he's gone in. How does somebody, or what does it say about somebody who has managed to go into here, with the mentality that they're going to do something to one person, and it turns into a massacre, a 4-person massacre? And even the mechanics of how that happened in that house, why did it go that way? Because if Brian Kohberger's entered into that room, and again, I'm using his name because he's the guy who's in the dock, so to speak. So he attacks, and then the other one is woken. He attacks Maddie. Kaylee wakes up, and there's this altercation. What I'm thinking is it must have been such a horrendous altercation to then rouse the people downstairs, because in my eyes, unless Ethan and Xana did come out of their room, then this person went to that room. They went down and ignored some of the other doors and physically went to that room. We know that the altercation happened or ended back in that room because of where Xana was. Now, did Ethan get attacked out in the hallway and then the person then goes back to the room after Xana, or does Xana come out and then runs back to the room? And do they do all this in silence so Dylan Mortensen doesn't hear anything? Again, I'm just trying to... I know we keep looking at the Dylan Mortensen situation, and I know we keep looking at, was it targeted, was it not targeted? But have we really sat back and thought how this crime actually, if it was targeted, went from one person to 4 people? And if it was in fact everybody who was targeted, why was everybody in the house targeted? Because I'll tell you what else sits a little bit uncomfortable with me. There seems to be like a massive effort being put by the parents to explain to people how good these students were, how good these victims were. They were good people. They were good people who didn't have connections with, the narcotics world. They didn't have this. Even Ethan Chapin's mum, she was answering questions at one of the stands, this podcast. And even her statements were specifically about getting people to remember and believe that these victims were good kids. They were real good kids. They were nice, friendly, loving, generous, kids. And I think to myself, and I could be just reading into this because I don't know whether it's different in the US, and you'll be able to let me know down below, but generally, young adults, college kids, it's a different breed. They're not like they were when we was younger, and there seems to be certain things like a massive lack of empathy between them, which would kind of explain why 911 wasn't called. Was it just this lack of empathy, or did generally or genuinely nothing get heard? And I think I just don't see that. I don't see it, because if there was an altercation and another altercation, and however the mechanics of that works, I think that there'd have been enough noise to rouse somebody who was several feet away. And yeah, I see it. I see it in the children who are around us. We're close with education. And yeah, there's just this lack of empathy. But these victims were all loving, brilliant, awesome, fantastic people. And look, maybe they were, but do the parents need to come out and make that a focus point of what they're talking about? Or should they be talking about making sure that your doors and windows are locked, making sure that, your safety and how to keep yourselves safe as a group of people, and the safety online, and and who knows? Again, I might be reading into it, and I'm well acutely aware that I am now starting to ramble. But let me know down below. Ethan Chapin's family, his mum attending Crime Con. How do you feel about it? And the targeted versus non-targeted. Please tell me how one person goes from one person, if it's targeted, to killing 4 people, and if they targeted all 4, then why? And could this have all really kicked off the way it did, and yet again, no noise. Catch you all in the next one.